everybody, and welcome back to Bubble Slants. I'm your host, Elisa D'Artola, and today I am talking about resigning. Obviously, if you follow me on social media or you listen to the podcast, you know that we've discussed this concept before. But it seems to be still striking a nerve in college football. Every day, USC is sending out a tweet with some hourglass emojis indicating how many players they're going to announce that day. And every day, USC tweets out, so-and-so has resigned, and every day, media and fans feel a certain way about it. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because I think it says a lot about how this makes people uncomfortable. And I get it. I grew up in the era of amateurism. There was something just like romantic about the idea of guys coming to play for USC and doing it for the love of the game instead of money and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm also older now, and I am also somebody who has to pay bills every month, and I understand that players are getting paid now and that they deserve to get paid and that it's been a long time coming. And even though it makes us uncomfortable about the nature of amateurism and what the sport is becoming, the increased financial pressures that are on players, teams, and conferences and TV networks and all of that kind of stuff, makes things a little bit fraught at times. And I understand that feeling of discomfort. But the idea that USC is out front saying the quiet part out loud about re-signing its players feels now like something that might be more necessary than I realized, because a lot of people in college football are still hiding behind euphemism, and they are still hiding behind concepts that are no longer true. Like, for instance, there was a Notre Dame fan that I saw today, J5 Sports, who wrote, "It's really fitting that USC is using the term re-signed when describing players returning to USC for another year. USC, much like Miami, is a mercenary program with no soul or culture. The players don't care about USC. They are there to earn a paycheck and nothing more. This is why USC will always be inferior to Notre Dame." Now, putting aside the obvious silliness of that kind of talk, as though Notre Dame's fans are playing for pride and country, and not that NIL deals play a role in them coming to Notre Dame, or that USC players care nothing about USC, that there aren't players at USC who are there because they actually happen to love USC. In the same way that when I first went on USC's campus and stood there just in the middle of it and took a deep breath and just knew I was home, like, that players don't feel that way too. It just so happens that they're also getting paid for it now, which again is long overdue. I every time I go on Twitter, because Arrogant Nation is posting it a lot, Nation is reusing this meme, the the concept, like, yeah, it's great to pay players NIL, but also, like, how dare USC talk about re-signing players? It's just kind of funny, because Notre Dame is also re-signing their players, and they did that last year and the year before too. Every school in the country is currently negotiating with every player on their roster and figuring out whether or not those guys are going to be coming back. All USC is doing is just putting it out there, saying it out loud. And from a fan perspective, I like it for a lot of reasons, but one of them too was somebody tweeted me today, like, it's just nice to know who's coming back. Like, most of December we could be sitting here going like, oh, is Cam Crawford coming back? Is there a chance that he might leave? Blah, blah, blah. Is RJ Sermon's coming back? Blah, blah, blah. And, like, no, we know. Cam Crawford's coming back. RJ Sermon's is coming back. Tobias Raymond is coming back. Kendarius Reddick is coming back. All of these guys who, in another world, we might be sitting here not quite sure if they will be back on USC's team in 2026. Well, now we know, and that's kind of nice, just from that perspective. But of course, opposing fans want to make a deal out of this and want to make it something more about a reflection of USC as a negative. And for me, it's a reflection of USC as a positive for one big reason. USC is acting like a professional organization, and that is a long time coming in and of itself. Chad Bowden has come in and built what amounts to a front office. USC's the football program is being operated like an NFL front office. You have a GM, you have people who are responsible for evaluating players, signing players, dealing with contracts, because that is the era we are in. We are in an era of NIL contracts. And just because we want to close our eyes and plug our ears and act like, money has no part in any of this, that's just a lie. Money has a big part in this, and teams will have to pay retention fees. They will have to be giving players bonuses. They will have to be raising their salaries in order to keep them around. That's just the way it is, because guess what? Players want money. Players want the money that they're owed. Players want the money that they're worth. It's capitalism. Welcome to life. And I just like that USC is out front on this, and just saying the quiet part out loud and saying, yeah, we are re-signing these players. Deal with it. You are also re-signing your players. You're just not spotlighting them the way that we are. And that's one of the bigger areas that I think people are missing here, and that a lot of trolls, there's been an Oregon troll in my mentions and around recently that I've seen talk about how pathetic it is that USC is re-signing players from, scraping the bottom of the barrel to re-sign backups and announcing it, and how pathetic it is that that all of, that USC is wasting their time announcing each and every one of those because they can't announce their starters are coming back or some bullshit like that. And it's like, okay, you want to troll the way you want, but it makes me wonder, do you hate your backups? Do you not value them in any way, shape, or form? Because I value USC's backups. I value the guys who haven't played yet, because they're still putting in their effort. They're putting their bodies on the line every single day to play football for USC, whether their value comes from the practice field or on the football field, whether they are a star or an unsung hero. I value all of them because they are all Trojans. So why wouldn't I want them to get their moment in the spotlight? Why would I be mad that Kendarius Reddick got re-signed with a photo and got his name mentioned by the official USC Twitter account? Why would that make me mad? I love it. I think he's a really bright player who had some cameo appearances this year under really difficult circumstances and did rather well and showed a real spark. I like that he's getting to be mentioned by name with a photo on the official account because he is re-signed. There are other players across the country are all re-signing as well, but they're not getting that moment where they are the center of attention in whatever land they are in. In USC land, for an hour, RJ Sermons was the center of attention because he was the one who was announced. It's not just re-signing Jaden Mayava. USC would have spotlighted Jaden Mayava anyway. But how many times were they going to spotlight any of the younger guys, the guys who aren't contributing yet, but realistically should be or will have a chance to be contributing down the line? What other reason does USC have to mention Chasen Johnson in December, except to highlight that he re-signed? And what other reason do I have to talk about Chasen Johnson in December, except that he re-signed? Every single time that USC is putting out these tweets, I am taking that opportunity on Twitter to quote tweet it with a reflection on who this player is. What did he do this year? What is he projected to do next year? Where does he stand in the grand scheme of USC's roster? I wouldn't be giving these guys the time of day at this time of year because we're not analyzing the roster yet. We're not talking about players. We're only generally focusing in December on the guys who are leaving or might leave. And so what USC is doing is, the guys who decide to leave, Devin Tompkins decides to leave, and On3 is tweeting a photo of him and saying that he's in the transfer portal. So why shouldn't USC go look at, at somebody like Floyd Boucard and say, yeah, he's staying. Here's a photo of him and a tweet acknowledging him. To me, number one, it's great PR because now USC is counterbalancing every time that a player leaves with, hey, this guy is staying. Regardless of what level that player is, it's a counterbalance that people are now talking about. But also, it's just good for Floyd Boucard to get his moment. I don't know why that's a problem. And for me, that's another thing. Like, this feels like a recruiting tool. This is an internal recruiting tool that, like, USC is offering guys these new deals and giving them that opportunity to sign them, to sit at that table with the contract in front of them and get the pen writing down photo op that you see from like NFL free agency or any other free agency. And that's got to feel special in a way that one of the funny things about college football is that when you are a high school recruit, you are the man. You are being featured by recruiting services. You are getting attention from coaches around the country. You are doing all this and that. Everybody wants your attention. You're getting mentioned all the time on social media. The moment you enroll, then it's like, well, okay, you're there. And unless you are immediately jumping forward to be a starter, if you are sitting in the background and developing, your name will simply not come up for 2 years. You will, in the past, I could go search on Twitter for a sophomore developmental prospect, and there would be nothing since he was a recruit. But now USC is now giving them that opportunity to be featured, and it's something that clearly I think players will like. It's something that recruits will look at and think, I like the way USC is going about this. I like that USC is treating these players like professionals and giving them new deals and announcing them this way. So I don't think it's going to hurt USC recruiting in the slightest. I think it's actually going to be something that USC gets to point to and say, like, hey, look at how we're doing it. This is how seriously we're taking this. We are going to treat you like a professional. And somehow that's being spun as a bad thing. But the fact is that USC has marketed itself as a NFL factory for the entirety of my life and going back. That's what USC's claim to fame is along with winning national titles and producing Heisman Trophy winners, USC has, the most or always in the mix of the most number one overall picks, first round picks, players in the Super Bowl, Pro Bowlers, this, that, and the other thing. Like, that's what USC's whole spiel is to players, is that if you come to USC, we're going to prepare you for the NFL. Well, now USC's spiel can be like, if you come here, you're going to be treated like a pro already. We're not going to skirt around the issues. We're not going to use euphemisms or say anything less than what it is. You are signing a contract. You are playing for us, and we value you in that way. And that's it, to me, ultimately gets to the thing I like the most about this. As much as I like all of the other things about this, the thing I like the most is that USC is the only program that's doing this. I have looked around. I've tried to find examples of official accounts that have talked about re-signing with that kind of verbiage, and I cannot find them. USC is leading the charge here, and it's about damn time, because for a decade or more, USC, after the sanctions, was happy to sit back and see what other teams were doing, see what was and wasn't going to be allowed by the NCAA. They were content to sort of be very tiptoey around anything that could potentially get them into trouble, because if they worded it wrong, oh no, the NCAA is going to come for you. Well, now USC is out front and saying, screw it. The NCAA has no control over these things. The NCAA is allowing players to get paid by NIL and revenue share, and who cares, then we're going to call it re-signing. And if the NCAA is mad about that, they can take it up with whoever they want. It doesn't matter. We don't care. It's been a long time coming for USC to do something that felt like USC was out front saying, like, it doesn't matter what the rest of you are doing. We are doing this. You all will follow. And make no mistake, other teams will start referring to bringing their players back as re-signing, because that's literally what everybody is doing. So in the end, it might make us feel icky, but to me, that's much more reflective of us as fans. If you don't like the verbiage of re-signing, then that is not USC's problem. That is not USC's fault. It is what college football is today, and we as fans have to come to terms with that. We have to come to terms with the fact that players are getting paid, and that in the end, that is the right thing to be doing. We have to come to terms with the way that money has been pushed to the forefront of college football while also maybe acknowledging that money has been at the forefront of college football the whole damn time. The only difference was all of the money was getting funneled to the powers that be at the universities, at the bowl level, at conference level, and all of that kind of stuff. They were all making giant contracts. They were all re-signing contracts. They were all getting bonuses. They were all getting retention stuff, perks and the like. And we just didn't hear about it, and we just didn't see about it, and we didn't have to acknowledge it. Money has always been part of college football. Now the players are getting a piece of it, and we feel uncomfortable about that. And I totally get it. I'm not being a hypocrite. I understand that discomfort, but also it's about time that we all faced it head on and said, no, these players are here working as professional student athletes, and that's okay. Let's call it what it is. And I appreciate USC being the school that's doing that. So, you may disagree with me, you may agree with me, whatever it is. USC is being bold in a way that USC has not been before, at least not for the last 10, 15 years. And that alone is going to be worth whatever anguish the rest of college football brings up when it comes to the re-signing announcements. And I guarantee you, those announcements will continue and the anguish will continue. In the end, what matters to USC is that we get to point to specific players who have already decided that they want to play for USC in 2026, and let's celebrate them because they deserve it. That's Bubble Slants for you. I'll be back some other time to talk about some other topic. See ya.